Now, some of you may have clicked on this video and been like, yeah! About time someone doesn't talk shit about Shadow the Hedgehog the game from 2005. Say that 4 times fast. And other people are like, huh? This game is gonna be one of the worst games I've ever played. I actually have clickbaited some of you today. I'm not covering Shadow the Hedgehog. Pfft, enough people have talked shit about that game for nearly 2 decades at this point. So, I decided to go a different route. Being a little late to this YouTube thing, because, you know, I can't start a successful YouTube channel at the ripe old age of 3. Oh. Today, I played Shadow the Hedgehog Reloaded, a fan-made ROM hack that seeks out to fix most of the glaring issues with this game, or at least minimize them. And that is how I played the game. Don't get me wrong, this is still definitely the same game. I mean, there were only these changes, so make of that what you will. This video will not be a comparison of the game, because honestly, it's been approximately a decade since I played this on the greatest console to ever exist, the PlayStation 2. So, for this video's sake, every time I talk about this game, just remember that I am talking about this edited version of the game, instead of the original, so enjoy. Alright, so I often like to talk about the story of both the game and the story inside the game, first off, so let's do that. Just to recap, Adventure 2 killed off Shadow, and that was actually the original plan, to keep Shadow dead. And Heroes didn't want to have Gamma return, but instead chose Shadow because of his popularity, and then they made Omega instead. So, Shadow grew more and more in popularity, finally being the most popular non-Sonic character since Knuckles back in the Sonic 3 days. And now Team Sonic has a unique situation. They can experiment with the Sonic name without tarnishing the name Sonic, right? Well, definitely not, because this was also during the mid-2000s, where everyone was trying to be edgy. The closest example, obviously, being Jak 2, being a cheery platformer turned to edgy gun-based platformer. They thought long and hard and decided to make an edgelord game focusing on Shadow with guns, being able to make the choice to kill humans. Actually, I lied. They didn't think long and hard about that. They thought giving the second biggest Sonic character a gun, being able to kill humans, was a good idea. That's absurd. But hey, maybe this game isn't canon. Well, there goes that thought. If they wanted that, maybe they could have expanded the events that happen on the arc. They gave Shadow different outcomes for different actions, but ultimately each road leads to him being launched and eventually being found by Eggman. But no. They made this game happen after Heroes, where he is questioning his past, and then fucking aliens showed up. Cue the Independence Day clips. Anyway, Black Doom, this alien mage-ass looking space sorcerer guy, shows up and tells Shadow to bring him the emeralds like promised, which tends to a previous interaction between the two 50 years ago. And despite all that, Shadow takes his word for it. And may I add, these cutscenes and cinematics are fucking awesome! The new textures, models, lighting, VFX are spectacular. I even really enjoy the music here. And this shit used to get me hyped as fuck as a kid. I'm a really big Infamous fan, and I loved SA2. So you know I adored this game when I was a wee lad. Anyway, this leads to the biggest change in the game. The karmic system. Every stage has at least 2 outcomes. Mostly 3, those being good, evil, and neutral. Even though neutral ends with killing Eggman, but that doesn't mean there are 3 endings or playthroughs. No. There are 10 possible endings, as well as 326 possible playthroughs. I'm not going to go in depth on each story here, but rather the endings. Pure evil is where you listen to Black Doom by helping him conquer the world by killing Sonic. You heard that right. There is a possibility to kill Sonic in the Sonic spin-off game. How they thought this was a good idea? No clue. If you go neutral, like I said, you kill Eggman because he claims that you are a Shadow android, only wanting androids to live. And finally, the good ending, where Shadow and Sonic help end Black Doom, saving the planet.
Wait! There's more!
In the original game, if you get all 10 endings, you unlock a special final segment, which nullifies each choice you've picked. Honestly, this is just a leftover from the adventure formula. I don't really know what else they could have done here if they absolutely need to keep the karmic system, but whatever. And again, a lot of people have a big issue with this, but I find a lot of Sonic fans like to roleplay, and being able to choose your own adventure helps you with that immersion. I don't blame them. But anyway, here in the final segment, Shadow goes through the Black Comet. And what's the Black Comet, you may ask? Well, it's a ship that the aliens showed up on. So we go through and fight Black Doom. Then he goes full Akira on us, and we go Super Shadow and end up saving the world by chaos controlling the Black Comet to be under the radius of the Eclipse Cannon to then be destroyed. But yeah, it's alright. It fills in some blanks, like the gun commander being a friend of Maria's on the ship, and also blaming Shadow for Maria's death, which then makes him want to join Gun. In fact, I feel the start should have led to the complete opposite ending, but whatever. And in the end, it turns out Jared actually built the Eclipse Cannon to destroy the Black Arms when they eventually show back up to conquer Earth. But I mean, there are a lot of plot holes here that honestly, I don't want to cover, because this video isn't supposed to be shitting on this game. But trust me, they are there. But luckily, this entire last story segment was surpassed by this ROM hack. See, the biggest change for this ROM hack is that you only have to beat the game 3 times to get the ending, which is why I did good, bad, and gray. But since we are already in this part of the video, let's talk about the budget and production of this game. Although the color palette is very muted in comparison to Heroes, don't get me wrong, it still is decent looking. There are actually textures now, and although the conflicting art styles of the realistic landscapes and aliens conflict with the goofy humanoid animals, which also is weird looking next to the humans, it's still not the worst thing I've ever seen. And the music here is an absolute bop. Yeah, it's dark and edgy with a lot of techno metal, but man, do the soap shoes fit. And again, we are carrying on the tradition of diverse level environments from Heroes. Each level feels pretty different from one another, excluding Glyphic Cannon and Sky Troops. Like the Haunted Pumpkin Mansion is really awesome alongside Digital Circuit. And yeah, I really just like most of these settings here. Although I would never want this to be mainstay in the franchise, it works for this one-time game. And yeah, that's really about it for this section, so let's get to the gameplay section. So, just to start, what Shadow the Hedgehog keeps is the loose-ass controls from Heroes, the billions of playthroughs to get to the final story, and many abilities are back at their best. The triangle jump, homing attack, and lightspeed dash are at their best yet. And also, enemies with multiple hit points. But beyond that, this is very much different. The levels are much more linear, which isn't the worst considering something I'll get to right now. The karmic system doesn't just get to the story, but also the gameplay. This is the biggest change gameplay and formula wise. Throughout the levels you will have 2 warring forces. Oftentimes it is Sonic Hero and Black Doom, but sometimes it's Eggman as the evil. Even at one level there was both Doom and Eggman, which I guess Eggman is the lesser of evils there because he is the good option. And again, to play into the karmic system, there are 2 life bars at the top, a good and evil bar. Doing the good guy's objective nets you positive energy, and destroying the environment or killing the allies nets you negative energy. You can expend the energy by either doing a Chaos Blast, which is pretty self-explanatory, and Chaos Control for good, which dashes you towards the end of the level, which isn't very useful unless you're doing a neutral mission, which is always going to the end ring, gathering the Chaos Emerald. Now these are cool and all, but one issue is that Chaos Control is completely useless for a good karma run because of another reason. Like I said, there are different playthroughs, and that's because the next level is dictated by doing the evil or good mission, or again just finishing it. If you look at the map, going up happens during the evil missions, and down for good, then straight with neutral. If you didn't like playing with Team Chaotix, you most likely won't like these. These objective sets you are oftentimes collecting a certain amount of things, destroying a certain amount of objects, or killing a certain amount of enemies. But these aren't necessarily as bad as Heroes, because like I said, these levels are pretty linear, so it's far easier to backtrack with the new addition. The checkpoints. The checkpoints here also act as teleporters, which means Team Sonic is learning from their mistakes. So far, this game really isn't that bad, but what makes this game a lot more fun are the guns. Booyah! Guns glory in great America. Hashtag fuck gun control because I like hedgehogs with guns. Alright, enough with that patriotic part. In all seriousness, one of the best parts of this game are the guns. There are, yeah, the basic guns, a pistol, auto rifles, explosive launcher, you get it. But honestly, it's really fun. Combining a homing attack with shots can be some fun. But there are some melee weapons which are meh. My favorite is the katana, which I unlocked after I think my first or maybe second playthrough, because it sends out air projectiles. And also there is a Billy Hatcher weapon. I don't really know what this game is about, but this gun sucks up enemies unless they're huge, which is really sad, but whatever. But I mean, this is very bare bones compared to the aforementioned Jak 2 or shit the Ratchet series, but it's still good. But time to talk about a big issue with the original game, the vehicles. Now, the acceleration is absurd basically throughout the entire game, but these aren't over-intrusive, especially the hovering blade platform that now Doom Guy uses as a shield in the new game. Can't wait for that shit. I remember this thing being the absolute worst when I was younger, but it was fine here, and my favorite was the Egg Walker thing in Sky Troops. This shit was like a Metal Slug ride for you OG SNK fans out there. And speaking of SNK fans, if you guys want to vote on my next retrospective after I'm done reviewing Sonic Colors, just go over and scroll over to my community tab. Maybe scroll down a bit if I posted, and you should see this poll where the options for my next retrospective are finishing Jak and Daxter, or Rayman, or Capcom vs SNK. Anyway, enough jerking myself off. I overall really like most of the additions in this game. The guns, rides, powers, they were all really good. And this brings me to the discussion of the levels. The first stage is Westopolis, which I think has a great scale and used to give me hype when I was younger. The opening always reminded me of the Falling Tools of Destruction section, even though, yeah, it's pretty bland, it's not the worst. Then if we look at the paths I went, well, oops. As you can tell, My pure good run got ruined by the circus level because I accidentally did the evil mission, which I thought was kind of funny, and I asked the chat if I should go with the flow or restart the run, and you guys said to continue. So I missed a few levels. We still got the ending in the end. But anyway, some standout stages were obviously Sky Troops, Glyphic Canyon, Digital Circus, Cryptic Castle, and Lava Shelter. These are mostly really cool for the aesthetic alone, especially Digital Circus and Cryptic Castle. But weirdly, this was the first game I'm pretty sure that they reuse areas from previous games, such as Kinda Prison Island. I only say kinda because obviously in this world it's the same as the jungle levels in SA2. It's now a different being, a dystopian force with industrial parks, which is really cool. But beyond just the oftentimes mediocre levels, one last thing the game does better than most other Sonic games are the bosses. Here, yes, sometimes it's just a big old room fighting a boss, but it's a lot better than, let's say, Labyrinth Zone, or Egg Hornet, or, God forbid, the Egg Viper. But sometimes you are chasing the boss, or homing attack into their weakness. It's honestly sometimes really cool. The best part is hitting them with a Chaos Blast. It's really satisfying. And now, you may be asking, what would Chaos Control be doing in a boss fight? Well, it freezes time, and from what happened to me, this seems cool and all, but is completely useless, because I couldn't do damage when this thing was happening, so really lame. But that's really it for this segment of the video, so let's get to the final part of this game. Like I said, after beating all endings, or in my case only 3, you unlock the last story, where you blast through the Black Comet and get stuck at dead ends to force combat encounters with the
Disgusting black creatures, get out of my sight.
Wait, whoa. What did you just say?
Disgusting black creatures.
Alright, before we talk about this explosive final level, I want to talk about this game shoving black down your throat every 2 seconds. Wait, whoa. If any of you have played this game, you know what I'm talking about. This game often says black every other moment. Now, I'm not going to repeat every example because I plan on having a future on YouTube. Do I think Team Sonic is racist? Absolutely not. That thought is just absurd. But what I do think is that it was a failed attempt to make this game edgier, because everyone knows after watching Matrix, everything is cool in black. And that's my thoughts on that. So back to the scheduled section. Again, they force you into corners that make you engage with the enemies and combat mechanics to further advance you, which works out pretty well. Anyway, ending this final playthrough is yet again another flying battle against a huge boss, while the absolutely banging OST happens while in super form. At this point, it feels like a checklist for every Sonic game, and here, it's fine. I don't know whether or not the mechanics of the stage are better than SA2, but it's certainly not as impactful. Don't get me wrong, I Am All That I Am goes hard here, just like me when I see that Megan Fox. What am I doing with my life? But either way, you'll beat Final Doom, and that's it. That's the game. And honestly, I had far more fun than not fun with this game. Certainly not up there with the greats like Adventure 1 and 2 and also Sonic 2, but it is certainly more enjoyable than Sonic Heroes, at least in my eyes. Again, I don't know how much of my experience was altered by this ROM hack, but what I do know is that I wouldn't have played this game 10 times to get that final story. And that last chapter certainly didn't make or break this game playthrough. So yeah, Shadow the Hedgehog honestly isn't that bad. Again, make sure to check out my poll to vote on my next retrospective. And with that being said, catch me on my streams this weekend where I play through not Sonic 06, but Project 06. And that's it. Peace.